everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of SPARC Nexus. We are delighted as today we have CA Harshita Sabharwal with us. She has held responsible positions in companies like Nestle, Delphi Automated Systems, and General Electric, and is currently working as a global relationship manager at IBM.
Our heartfelt welcome to you, ma'am. We are grateful that you could join us for this episode and guide us and our viewers as well for this enlightening experiences. Now, we will be beginning with our first round for today's podcast. We will be asking you some questions related to your experiences.
Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so, ma'am, my first question for you is how do you think the role of technology in the field of finance is going to look like in the upcoming future? And what, in your opinion, is one of the technological advancement in the past years that has played the biggest role in simplifying financial processes?
Thank you for the question. And yes, I do agree. In fact, I would not even call it change. I would call it a revolution in the finance function from where we were probably 25 years ago when I started my career in finance as a chartered accountant. And I still remember the way we would tick manually, on the ledgers while we were doing the audits. And today, people don't even notice how the initial audit work is done. So, in my view, if you really ask me, the biggest change that has happened is the fact that any task or activity which is routine, repeatable, and can be done with a set of rules is pretty much going outside of the human domain to the computers and the robots. So that's one, I would say, a basic rule. Wherever anything is repeatable, rule based, free of exceptions, that's something which is probably it's either the ERP or we are using certain level of robotics with combination of structured and structured data to bring in the right level of results. So that's one. Second, I think your question was what is that biggest one change that has happened in the finance function with respect to technology? So my answer to that would be that I would not call it one change. It's actually a combination, a bundle of various things that have happened. One is that again, if I go back to when we started working on computers for the first time, we used to have something called the AS400 system. It was a black and green screens with some very basic functionalities. So you could, type in your journal entry and then pull out the ledger from the system and then check. Today, with the advancement and with all the SAPs, Oracles, and different kind of systems, and the level of advancement that has happened to interconnect these systems into various functions. And when I say that, it would mean something like an inventory, supply chain, even HR. So all of these have become tightly interconnected to be able to provide the results that we need, and we don't need to do them outside of the system. So that's one. I would say the ERP itself, on which we do the work in finance, has gone through a complete evolution. And as we speak, every few years we are implementing upgrades for our clients. So it's undergoing a lot of changes based on requirement. That's one. But it doesn't end there. And it's probably not enough because most of our ERPs do not take care of unstructured data. And unstructured data has a big role to play in the next wave of transformation in the finance function. Because whatever is structured is already taken care, in my view, from the systems. So the role of humans is now to take the decisions. Everything else is processed in the machine. But the unstructured data, and unstructured data would come in areas like your financial planning, even predicting trends, even in the treasury function. So those are the areas where we need to use this kind of data. So something like an intelligent platform, which is a combination of robotics, which could be even some, desktop systems which help us create those trends by building in artificial intelligence, or it could be using systems like blockchain. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about it. So these are the areas where on top of the ERP, to to give it more intelligence, so that tomorrow if I want to know whether I am okay to invest in the market after 6 months and I would like to predict my cash flow very accurately, I could use structured and structured data with a set of algorithms to be able to get that position. So that's the next wave of transformation in finance. And as we speak, that's going to bring in the next revolution.
Sure, ma'am. That is very insightful. And we totally agree with you that technology is changing the face of finance.
Yeah.
So, my next question for you is, so what do you think are the blooming career avenues in the field, same as yours? And how can youngsters like us upskill ourselves and look towards upon these opportunities?
So first of all, what I keep telling everyone is that whatever may change in technology, transformation, systems, artificial intelligence, robotics, I don't know, you keep hearing all these terms, but I still believe that the foundation is critical. So if you have a good foundation, if you're a finance student, if you know your basics of economics and financial planning, analytics, accounting very well, I think that's the first step. So very important at this stage to make sure that we build on that foundation. Sometimes I've observed that the students are good, but then their basics are not very strong. And the machine is as good as the human brain, right? So if we don't have that basic knowledge and foundation, we will not be able to make the machine work to our advantage. So that would be my first suggestion to all the students, that as we are in college and schools, and sometimes we hear that the education system in India does not have the right infrastructure to learn. I beg to differ, because it is helping us build that foundation, right? And everything else is now available in various forms on Google, on various different platforms. And if you would really like to learn, you should make a combination of your foundation with what is the future, and get into some of these, like some trainings or some courses on artificial intelligence, or maybe something on blockchain, but do it alongside. But still, the initial focus and initial formative years are for building that foundation. So that would be my recommendation.
I
And then,
hope
of
our
course,
audience
yeah,
I hope our audience will be able to incorporate these things into their study life.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Next question is, ma'am, since you are working as a global relationship manager in IBM, so ma'am, what are the skills which are required to do this job perfectly? Like, if this is basically how much you can inspire and influence others, right? So how can we acquire those skills and gain perfection in this field?
sure. So, when you move to senior roles in corporate, I would say that the basic expertise of the subject and domain knowledge is a given. That's your bread and butter, right? So that, of course, has to be there. But beyond that, to be successful in roles like these, so these are multicultural, global roles where you're dealing with different kinds of people, not just in your own function, but across. Very important to understand cultures and also business as a whole, rather than only your own finance function. So it's very important. So we are finance professionals, but beyond a point, we need to understand the business as a whole and how we fit in, and also what are the requirements of our clients, of the business, of the industry, of the sector, to be able to move forward and make an impact. So that's what I would say.
Okay.
Mm.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, ma'am, what was the biggest roadblock which you have faced in your career, and how do you think it has influenced the person which you are today?
So I would say, either you can call them roadblocks or you can call them opportunities, because, every roadblock comes with a huge opportunity to challenge yourself and to bring the best out in you. So for us, and sometimes maybe, for the women, we as women also face some challenges because of prejudices or stereotypes, and the corporates are not free of those either. But in order to make a mark, if you are willing to put in that very best and have self belief, any roadblock is really not a roadblock. But just still to answer your question, what kind of roadblocks I have faced? So I would say many of them, and it is when I got married and I had little children. So how do you manage your home and manage your work? That was one, I would say, big challenge. Second is sometimes the fact that you need to go beyond to prove yourself in the corporate as a woman. So sometimes your male colleagues find it easier by doing less and getting the same benefits or the same level of promotions as a woman would do. So that's a second roadblock, I would say. But beyond a point, and considering now I'm in the corporate for the last 25 years, I really don't see that as a challenge anymore. Probably that road has been already crossed.
And another question that I would like to ask you is, as you were talking about earlier too, how have technologies like hybrid cloud, blockchain, and artificial intelligence impacted the world of finance and others? So, would you please enlighten us and our viewers about these world-changing technologies that we are listening nowadays?
Sure. Sure. So, first of all, I would say I would not call myself an expert in these technologies, but definitely I can give you a perspective of how it has impacted the way I'm dealing with my function and the way I would work. So, the first one is on the hybrid cloud, I think you mentioned. So hybrid cloud, as you would know or probably you've read, is we have two aspects here. We've got private cloud and we've got public cloud. So private cloud is a more secure environment where you can save your data, you can store it without any intervention of the world outside. And then public cloud is sought with a lot of dangers of data loss, etc. So my point here is that the problem with private cloud is that if you keep everything or try to use whatever is there only on private cloud, then you're not able to take the benefit of the, again the same term I would use, the unstructured data, which is available in abundance and which may be very valuable for taking certain business decisions. So what hybrid clouds does is that it helps us to bring in the public cloud information to the extent required on a platform which is secure and is not sought with the real dangers of the public cloud. So that's one. I mean, I'm giving you a very simple answer here. So hybrid cloud is something which is being used by many companies now in order to be able to keep a balance between what they need to be very secure from what they would like to use. So that's one. Secondly, you spoke about blockchain. I think it's a term which is being used in many scenarios these days. So, blockchain is nothing but it's a platform which gives you a single version of truth. So, what it does is that it allows you to put a chain of transactions on a platform which does not allow anybody to hack or cheat. And you get the single version throughout the chain. So it could be used very successfully in areas like customs. So as you know that customs has a long process and a lot of people get involved at various stages. So if that single source of truth lies on blockchain, it is easy and it is traceable. So you cannot have changes done along the way. And secondly, of course, the speed matters as well. Second area, and something I was reading very interesting, is that our government is trying to use blockchain for land registration. So, as you know, the land registration process in India is sought with so many frauds, benamis, and all of that. If we put everything on blockchain, in my view, we'll be able to eliminate maybe 90-95% of such fraudulent transactions because of, again, getting everything on the same platform. So it's very simplistic answer. I mean, of course, it's a subject in itself, but I'm just trying to share various areas where it is already being used. Even banks have started using this, and my view is the next decade is going to see a revolution because of this technology. So my advice would be that if you don't know enough about blockchain, please go and find out. It is really going to help you because by the time you hit the corporate world, probably there'll be more requirement of blockchain understanding.
Sure.
Definitely, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Your answers are insightful. And now it's time for some fun. For that, we have with us the game of Spark. In this, we'll be asking you some very short, crisp, and fun questions for which you have to answer in a phrase or a word in a very crisp manner. So we'll begin at your instructions now.
Sure. Let's go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. So the first question is the most favorite thing about your job.
So, the travel. So, I love the travel about my job.
All right.
We all
Okay, so
do, ma'am.
the first thing that you would like to do after this pandemic is over.
So, I like to go and buy some nice new clothes for myself. I'm really missing that.
Definitely, we all need to do that. Okay, so describe yourself in 3 words.
So, I would say energy, fun, and passion.
That's great.
We can
Okay,
see
so
that,
ma'am,
ma'am.
your role model.
My role model. Okay. So, my role model, in some ways, I really like Abdul Kalam, and I really read about him and the way he moved up his journey.
That's great, ma'am. So, ma'am, are you a morning person or a night person?
Definitely a night person.
Okay, the next question goes here. The first career you have dreamt of as a kid.
Oh, I wanted to be a Bollywood actor.
Oh, that's great.
Ma'am, books which you would recommend your viewers and us.
So, in terms of books, there is one book which says, What got you here won't get you there. So, I'll get you the name of the author, but that's definitely a book everybody should read. Because sometimes we assume that we are successful, so the same methodology can be applied in future. So, that really breaks that misnomer.
We'll definitely read that book, ma'am. The next question goes, what would you choose between intelligence and personality?
Personality.
Great, ma'am. Okay. A job with a high salary or a job with high growth perspectives?
I would say both.
That was a witty answer.
Ma'am, the last question goes here. Any one thing, that you explored during the lockdown?
So, I've really brushed up my skills as a chef. So, probably that could be my alternate profession in future.
We definitely all have done that in the lockdown and gained a lot of weight because of that too. Okay, so ma'am, with this, we would like to come to our last segment for the podcast. So, we would like to ask you to give your final advice to our viewers and to the students who are pursuing the same career just like you.
Okay, so I'll just like to say two things. So, one is, of course, love what you do. So, do not take it as a burden. And if you do not do that, I would say that you will not work a day in your life or study a day in your life because you will enjoy every aspect of it. So it's very important to do something you really enjoy. And secondly, if I talk about students who are in this particular career, I would say that keep yourself up to date with the changes that are happening around you and improve your personalities. When I say personalities, your general intelligence about what's happening around. And secondly, be sensitive and try to give back to the society as well.
Okay, that was really great, ma'am, and motivating too. And another thing that would I would like to you to come up with is a hashtag for this episode, a word or a phrase that you think perfectly sums up our podcast recording. And in other words, you could say the title of your success.
Okay, so um, So maybe what we should say is human versus technology.
Agreed. Agreed, ma'am.
So who will win?
Sorry, what did you say?
Who will win at the end?
I would say the
Uh,
humans will win, but we are trying to make sure that the robots win somehow. I don't know why.
okay. Ma'am, we are so grateful and inspired by your answers and your words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sparing time and joining with us today. And we hope that our viewers have a nice time listening to you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Please wait for our next.
Thank you. Stay safe. And thanks for inviting me once again. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Stay safe, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.